Good evening and welcome to Know Your Rights. This is the show where you hear directly from lawyers who break down the law and explain the rights of citizens on common legal issues that confront Belizeans on a regular basis. Tonight, we will be discussing taxation laws and regulations. Whether you are an employee, customer, or business owner, understanding your right as it pertains to tax laws is important to give you a peace of mind. Joining us to shed light on this significant topic is former magistrate Mr. Ed P. Usher, who is the legal advisor to the General Sales Tax Department. Good evening and welcome, Ed.
Thanks for having me, Khadija.
Well, Mr. Usher, I know you have quite a bit of experience in the tax business, and tax is a heavy topic, so let's get right into it. For the Belizean public, and oftentimes we are consumers, as I said, we're employees, and we want to know, why do we need to pay taxes?
Okay, Khadija. Basically, taxes and taxation is the prime source of income for governments. It's based on raising money from citizens and companies to pay for certain public things they provide to the public. For example, public health, hospitals, doctors, nurses, public education.
Okay.
We know that education takes a big slice of our budget annually. Teachers, building schools, maintaining schools, public safety, the Belize Defense Force, paying our soldiers, the Coast Guard, the police, our good police officers, and public works, infrastructure, roads, highways, water supply, etc. So government needs to collect taxes in order to be able to provide these public public good.
So it might be a lot of goods and services that you would say the public takes for granted, but it is there and it costs money.
Precisely. And so you can raise taxes, and then, for example, in infrastructure, you can see where, if you go to the Queen Square Market on a Saturday morning, you're hearing orange walk, tamales, and tacos. The infrastructure is so good that people from Orange can bring their hot tamales for you at the Queen Square Market. So yes, governments need these revenue sources. Now, the government cannot just collect revenues, taxes from the citizenry. The government must, actually the Constitution of Belize provides for monies collected by the government to be placed in a fund called the Consolidated Revenue Fund. And annually, when the masses or the people hear about the budget, the government, that is when the government goes to Parliament and asks Parliament for authorization to use these funds that they have collected to do the public good.
The various projects that they need to carry out. So you don't have a choice when it comes to taxes. It's not something, although it might be a media trend lately, I notice it's a trend with a lot of coming through from big owners or you know, these Wall Street guys and stuff. Skipping out on taxes is a cool thing, but it's not. It really is not a choice. It is a duty, and it is by the law.
Exactly. Tax collection, these income tax, for example, and business tax, general sales tax. These are provided by, they're what you call the creatures of statute. Statute is passed by Parliament, and it says how these taxes are to be collected, how much of the taxes are to be collected. So, for example, the general sales tax, that's a particular kind of tax where the final consumer pays, but I'm getting ahead of
go ahead, yes.
And income taxes, income taxes are PAYE, for example, pay as you earn. Those are persons who their employers collect taxes from them on the government's behalf. And similarly, G.S.T. registered persons collect taxes on behalf of the government.
Now, suppose you do not pay the taxes. What are the penalties involved?
Okay, the General Sales Tax Act and the Income Tax and Business Tax Act has certain penalties. They vary.
Okay.
The General Sales Tax Act provides, for example, that a registered person is to collect the taxes and they are to pay the taxes in. If they fail to do this by a particular time, for example, G.S.T is to be collected by a registered person and pay in on the 15th of the following month for the month preceding.
Okay.
And if they fail to do that, then
Yes.
it becomes an offense.
Okay.
And as such, the Act provides for a certain fine, penalties,
Okay. Yeah.
etc.
In the event of the default
Precisely.
happening.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So, in terms of the collection agency figuring out if you have default on taxation, what is the procedure in place? Do they do certain audits? Oftentimes we hear about audits happening.
Precisely. Okay. As it relates to G.S.T, the General Sales Tax,
Yeah.
like I said to you, the registered person is to do what we just said. They are to collect and pay the taxes in. Now, there is a form that they fill out saying how much taxes they owe, their sales, etc., the invoices that are used in this form, accompanying this form, sorry, to say how much taxes is due the government.
Okay.
Now, let's say something on the form does not add up. It does not look correct.
Something looks
you
funny.
know that this big store and the amount.
Just leave it a revenue.
Precisely. Well, then the act provides that the administrator of the G.S.T Act, who is the commissioner,
Okay.
has the power to commence an audit to see, well,
Okay.
whether what you say you are to pay to the government is correct as it relates to your sales, your inputs, your output, etc. So the Act, like I said, provides for those measures.
Okay. And I want to throw out a technical term for you.
Right.
And being in the business for a while, I'm sure, we want to know what is tax remission. What do they mean when they say tax remission?
Okay, tax remission. Actually, the Act, the G.S.T Act, only only mentions tax remission once, and obviously other derivatives like remittance. But tax remission is basically where the tax authorities cancels out some part of your tax.
Okay.
For example, there's a tax remission for fees for overseas students.
Okay.
For example, there are certain, but the actual remission in our law, that word is just basically not really a break, but the Act allows the commissioner, for example, penalties. Once an assessment is made, you get along with the actual tax that you owe, there is interest that accrues and certain penalties.
Okay.
And the Act allows the commissioner of GST to give you a break, a remission on the penalty,
Okay.
a waiver, if you
Okay.
may.
Okay.
So,
It's similar to like settling.
Right.
Called to a settlement.
right. So, and the statute provides that the commissioner is allowed or authorized to do that.
Okay. Well, Mr. Usher, when we get back, we want to go into the three popular taxes, GST, you kept mentioning GST, business tax, and income tax.
Okay.
But we just need to take a very short break, and then we will be right back to continue our discussion on taxation laws and regulations. Welcome back to Know Your Rights. I am Khadija Usher, and our guest tonight is Mr. Ed P. Usher, and we are discussing taxation laws and regulations and the importance for every taxpayer to know their rights and responsibilities when dealing with taxes. So, Mr. Usher, we want to go into GST, the first form of tax, and it's quite unfortunate that we have this topic, and I know that the the collection agency was hit with a recent tragedy, and you are also familiar with the employee who had the recent tragedy as well. And we are very sorry for that. And, but we just want to have a very general discussion about GST, what is involved, and what the viewers especially need to understand when it comes to GST and their responsibility when it comes to GST.
Exactly.
So what is GST?
Okay, GST, general sales tax. In some of the other jurisdictions, it is known as the goods and services tax. It is basically a value-added tax levied on most goods and services that are sold for consumer, for the final consumer, and it's a tax then that is held, like I said, by a registered person, collected and held and accounted for and paid in by a registered person to the government.
Okay.
The purposes of it, as we said earlier, for those public works, public health, etc. Now, just to show you how important general sales tax is, during the last year, 2017, the General Sales Tax Department collected revenues in the sum of about $319 million.
319 million.
319 million, which is a little over $250 million. And so it is a very essential part of the GDP of the country, and so the collection is essential.
A big chunk of the consolidated funds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, as it relates to the collection of GST, not anyone can collect GST.
Okay.
There's only a registered person
can
collect, can charge and collect GST. The GST is charged on three types of supplies.
Okay.
There is a supply called the zero-rated supplies. Now, zero-rated supplies attract GST, but at 0%. You might say, what, 0%? Why?
Yeah.
Because you have certain businesses, certain registered persons who deal with items that are zero-rated, like flour. They don't attract GST as such. But in order for our purposes, it's zero. Because even though it doesn't attract the 12.5% as the standard rated does, when a registered person calculates the zero rated at the 0%, that allows him to be registered and also allows him to collect his inputs, taxes that he paid. Because remember, GST is a multi-level tax from the importer, the retailer, and then the final consumer, you and I, who goes to the stores and buy goods. The standard rated element of the GST are those goods that actually attract the 12.5% GST. And the exempt supplies. Those are supplies that does not attract GST, and as such, the registered person cannot claim any inputs, any of the taxes that
you could give us an example of an exempted?
Yes, an exempted supply would be, for example, financial services. Financial services, banking, insurance, residential rents, education, certain things for education, water from BWS. And you hear the distinction, water from BWS, because bottled water will attract, since it's processed and packaged nicely, etc., it will attract the standard rate.
So what happens if I am purchasing and I do not receive a receipt? Because I recall, especially, I think it was last year, there was a campaign led by the GST, bring in your receipt, bring in your receipt. What is the significance of that?
The significance is the law requires, under the GST regulations, that a registered person for GST uses or utilizes a programmable cash register. So basically, when you ask for your receipt, the registered person or the business uses the register. And as such, when you get your receipt, the other side of the tape or the amount is in this programmable cash register, and in essence, it leaves a tax fingerprint then. So when our auditors go in and they are doing an audit, they're assessing the registered person, they'll be able to look at the sales, daily sales, monthly sales, the aggregate sales, to see what were the standard rated goods. Because remember, it is zero rated and exempt. So this, only the standard rated to see what would have been the G.S.T. that is due to the government of Belize.
Okay, so that receipt really is the evidence.
Basically.
As proof.
And as such, if you go to the store and you do not ask for your receipt, then basically you don't know what they, I don't want to say they're going to be stealing the G.S.T., but then you can't, when the auditors go there, there is no account of the 12.5% that is due to the government.
Okay, it's quite
interesting. So you should ask for your receipt, and the law provides in the regulations what this receipt is to look like. They are supposed to give you your receipt. As a matter of fact, you don't even, according to the law, you're not even supposed to be asking for a receipt. But when you pay for your goods, you're supposed to be given a receipt.
Okay.
Now, the next question that arises is, what happens then? Well, then there are several things you can do. You know the G.S.T. staff, we can't be in every store and so on. But if you go and you do not receive a tax receipt, then I would say you're obligated to ask the persons for the receipt, or ask the persons for information with the store. If they're to collect G.S.T., they will have a certificate. You can get the information from the certificate, this store on this street. Okay. The tin, there's an identification number, and the green. Most businesses, you will see it close to the cash register, because the law requires that the business displays the G.S.T. certificate once they are registered for G.S.T. Okay. And so you can get that information and you can bring it to G.S.T., and the G.S.T. might conduct a sting operation. Okay. Will send someone undercover, no G.S.T. uniform, to actually go and purchase and see if indeed the complaint made by the consumer was valid. And if indeed it's valid, then that's an offense, and that person can be taken to court for not subscribing to the provisions of the law as it relates to the receipt.
Okay. And how can you go about registering at G.S.T.?
Okay, registering for G.S.T., there's a threshold requirement. Okay. So the law says $75,000 annually per annum. So if your business is generating $75,000 or more per annum, then you are required to register for G.S.T.
75,000 or more.
But if your business, let's say, is generating, it will take the year to make the 75,000, let's say. But you find that your business, for the first month, let's say you're making, I think the law says $6,250. Then you are to look, in the Act it says it, you are to look for between 3 and 4 months to see if you're consistently making that amount, which means that at the end of the year you shall have met the threshold.
Okay, it gives you a little lead time to check how your revenue's coming in.
And then you come to the GST and you say, based on my figures, I believe that I will meet the threshold. Okay. And then the TPS, the Taxpayer Services Division of the department, it is their job to do the registration for GST.
And is it a start of the year to end of the year thing? What if in the event you start off slow, suddenly towards the end of the year you really pick up and you pass the you'd make a lot of money, you pass the 6,000, and so you would be
per month.
Per month.
But the threshold is 75,000 per
for
annum.
the year.
So once you see, you can come into the department and say, I think the way my business is going, I think I will meet the threshold I want to apply for GST. Okay. But you should be seeing within the first 3 to 4 months, you should be seeing more or less how your business is going. Yeah. And of course, if you're going to be meeting the threshold, then it is not incumbent, it is legislated that you are to come in and register for general sales tax.
Have to pay your tax.
Precisely.
We need to take one more short break, and then we'll be right back to continue our discussion on taxation laws and regulations. Welcome back to Know Your Rights. I am Khadija Usher, and our guest tonight is Mr. Ed P. Usher, and we are discussing taxation laws and regulations and the importance for every taxpayer to know their rights and responsibilities when dealing with taxes. So we were talking about G.S.T.
Yes.
How is it that businesses are to calculate G.S.T. on their products?
Okay, you mean the pricing?
The pricing.
Okay.
Yeah.
The law requires that a business, that the GST is inclusive of the price. The price is inclusive of the GST.
Okay.
So, for example, if you see a good for $25 on the good in the supermarket, that is supposed to include the GST. You should not see a price that says $25 plus GST.
Okay.
That is, as a matter of fact, if it is not inclusive, that's another offense.
Oh, okay.
And the act and the regulation actually provides, and the regulation actually shows you, and the act shows you how it is to look.
Okay.
It's a pity I can't show you, but persons can
Yes.
check at the GST our website,
Okay.
and look at the legal,
The format of
that
the,
says, and see
yes.
how you are not supposed to see a price that says $50 plus GST. The $50 should have already included the GST.
Yes, because I know when sometimes when you go abroad in USA, you would see a price, but that not include the taxes. So you always have to try calculating in your head. Oh, that's not really $5, that 5 this or so. But
Exactly.
here, you're supposed to see
Precisely.
just that price, and it's
Yes,
inclusive
it's
of
supposed to be
GST.
inclusive of the GST.
So let's speak a little bit about business tax.
Business tax.
What is business tax, and do all businesses have to pay business tax?
Well, business tax is similar, in a similar manner that we have the PAY that I mentioned earlier, or you pay as you earn.
Okay.
Business tax attracts a certain percentage. I think if I remember correctly, it's 1.75%. And most businesses, there's a list of businesses under the Income and Business Tax Act. There's a schedule that says these are the various businesses, these are the various occupations, lawyers, etc., that are to pay the business business taxes. So, unlike the GST, which is a straightforward 12.5%, there's a 1.75%. If you're a consultant, there's a different tax rate that is utilized.
Okay.
So, business tax is slightly different. Business tax is your money. It is your money that you're dealing with, while GST, it is the consumer who pays it.
Yes.
And that's why it's the registered person who collects the GST. I mean, that should be no problem to pay it because it's not your money.
Okay.
I can understand arguments from the business sector because it's their gross receipts and their business to pay the actual amounts that they're to be paying to the government.
Yeah.
So the various businesses, there are certain taxes that are in the schedule at the end of the act. There are certain exemptions also in the business tax act. For example, if you let's say the lotteries, the Bolido lottery, you do not pay taxes, but like Lotto and those are bigger lotteries.
Okay.
You pay taxes on those. So business tax, most businesses are to pay business tax on their receipts, on all the receipts, and that is provided for in the Income and Business Tax Act.
Okay, and I know a lot of businesses always try to do various types of social works or charity activities. Are they able to claim tax refund based on certain activities that they would do?
Yes, the Income and Business Tax Act at Section 105, if I remember correctly, allows for certain charitable contributions, which then can be deducted or can be claimed business tax. Okay. So Section 105 of the Income Tax Act. The reason why I'm telling you, like I said, these different sections, because these taxation departments are, like I said, creatures of statute, and so the Income and Business Tax Act provides clearly what are the the rules, what are the provisions that governs the Income and Business Tax Act.
Yeah.
The Income and Business Tax Act has several parts to it. Actually, there are 3 parts to it. The first part deals with income tax, PAYE. There's a different part of the Income and Business Tax Act that deals with petroleum taxes.
Okay.
And then the third part of the Income and Business Tax is what deals with the businesses, the various businesses that are to be paying business tax.
Okay. And I want to do a wrap up, and I know this will be very difficult because this was a lot to get through in terms of taxation.
Yes,
but
and there's so much. This is an interesting area. There's so much to be.
But what do you want to emphasize to the viewers about taxation, or any one of the 3 main areas that we touched on taxation?
The PAYE and the business tax, they are handled by the professionals at the income tax department. That has been going on for years. The general sales tax, however, was 2006, July the 1st, if I remember correctly. That was when sales tax, well, it was a different tax prior.
One next name.
Yes, exactly. But general sales tax, as we know, it started in 2006. And the general sales tax is your money. And so something that I believe our citizens are to remember, if they remember nothing else, is ask for your receipt.
Okay.
That is the fingerprint, like I said, as to what the auditors can look for when assessing these businesses, to ensure that they had paid the right amount that is required by law.
Yeah. That your money is reaching the right
Precisely.
place. Yes.
And so you can get more streets, and you can get more highways, and better health, more medicine, etc.
Thank you so much, Mr. Usher.
You're welcome.
But unfortunately, we have come to the end of our show for tonight. Thank you, Ed, for joining us and providing important information on tonight's topic. Next week, we will be joined by attorney Payal Ganwani, who will be discussing your rights when it comes to defamation, libel, and slander. Tonight's episode of Know Your Rights repeats at 1 p.m. on Sunday on Channel 7, and it will also be available for your viewing on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you for watching, and good night.